Canadian Context number 8 with our fellow host, Abigail, and a special guest, Dr. B. Please feel free to introduce yourself.
Hi, how are you? I'm Dr. B. I'm an EDM musician based out of Toronto. And yeah, I'm very happy to be here.
Great. We're so happy to have you here with us this week. You have a very broad background in specifically music, and you started out under the name The Mad Scientist, right?
Yeah.
So, what drew you into DJing in the first place?
Um, I started DJing at, let's say, I think I was 16. And I really got into it because I saw the movie New Jack City and uh, my, my head exploded. And movies like Juice where they highlighted the DJs. And, from my experience, especially being in Canada, seeing like New York DJs scratch and stuff like that, I just was completely mesmerized by it. And I knew that's just what I wanted to do. So I saved up some money. I bought my first Technique 1200s from a very close friend of mine, Shy. Shy, if you're listening, what's up, buddy? And oh yeah, he acted so crazy because we were young kids together. And then he actually grew up to be this famous rapper in Israel. And sold like platinum records. Yeah, it was crazy the way our lives turned out.
Yeah.
But yeah, he sold me my first turntables, and I was pretty much hooked ever since. The main thing that kind of drew me towards it, what I would say, is that it was kind of like my escape. My brother and I, we grew up pretty abused, mostly by my mom. And music was a way for us to kind of, well, mostly for me, not much my brother, but it was a way for me to kind of disappear into like another world and really give me something to focus and concentrate on, right? Like I was trying to become a really good turntablist and focus on scratching and beat juggling. And that takes so much time, hours and hours every day. So, yeah, I realized I could have, kind of just disappeared into another world for like 5, 6, 7 hours a day just doing that. And it kind of just grew from there.
Yeah, I'm so sorry to hear about your past struggles with abuse.
Oh, thank you. But, I mean, it was a really confusing time because, I mean, obviously, if you have a mom and your mom's telling you she loves you, but at the same time, this is a person that's hitting you and causing you physical pain, emotional pain, and embarrassment. That was my mom's favorite form of abuse for some reason. She loved to humiliate us, and I never understood why a parent would do that to their own child. And then when I got older, I realized I started asking more questions and I tried to calm down because when you're abused for a long time, you're angry, right? You get frustrated and you get angry. And when I started to calm down when I got a lot older, I started asking more questions and I realized both my parents grew up abused. And they didn't really have a lot of education and they didn't know how to raise kids properly, so when you really think about it, we, in some way, really didn't have a chance when you're kind of dealing with those deck of cards. But I knew that's not how I wanted to be with my family, and my kids, and I've never done anything like that. Like, I've never hit my children or at least I think I've never caused them any form of trauma. But, they might tell you something different based on last night's dinner. They might say, Dad, that was terrible,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I tried to take a bad situation and turn it into something positive. And during that time, I listened to a lot of opera music and classical music at nighttime when I would go to sleep, and it really soothed me and comforted me. And now I grew up and I work with opera singers, and I'm working on an opera Christmas album, and I've had the opportunity to work with, I think, 4 different opera singers in Italy and France. And it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And I really think if it wasn't for all the time I spent listening to opera when I was a kid, that I wouldn't really have this love for it. And yeah, and I've had some great experiences doing it now. So, I mean, I guess you got to take the good with the bad. So,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So when it comes to like your musical like career, when it first started, what were some like inspirations, like other EDM artists or other DJs and stuff like that?
inspirations. At the time, I really wanted to make like house and techno music, but I couldn't because um, the label deal that I got with Ryko Distribution at the time, um, who's also owned by Warner Brothers, the deal was for hip hop and like reggae music.
Mhm.
So my focus really had to be. You also have to understand it wasn't like it is now. Like in the early 2000s, when you had like a deal with a label, they really expected you to release this music. They're investing money into you. You're putting money into it. The stuff has really got to come out. You really can't fool around. It's not like now. Now you can put out a song tomorrow. You don't have to worry about a marketing plan, a budget plan, or I mean, you do, but not really. I think the average independent artist just wants to release tracks. So back then, I was really focused on hip hop, and I would say inspiration wise, hip hop. I really like the Executioners, like the legendary scratch group.
Mhm.
And I became friends with Mrs. Sinister, and he became one of my biggest inspirations, but one of my mentors, and helped me get a lot better at turntablism. I was really inspired by like a lot of the New York rappers at the time. Um, uh, let's see, at that time, we're going back to like 2001, 2002. So at that time, I would say Redman was a big inspiration. Def Squad, Wu Tang, definitely.
Yep.
Um, we definitely did. We had a lot of influence with Eminem and his camp because my lawyer at the time was the same lawyer as Eminem.
Nice.
Um, yeah, so I was trying to get into that circle, but
Yeah,
it never worked out. I was
yeah.
really trying to. Crazy story. His best friend, Eminem's best friend at the time, Proof. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him.
Mhm.
He's in his group D12. He passed away, I think, in 2001. And at that time, I was in the middle of negotiations with him to put out a solo album. And
Right.
he was talking to us because he really wanted to. He didn't have anything bad to say about Eminem or the whole crew, but he just felt like he wanted to release a solo album um, that didn't kind of highlight Slim Shady and all those other guys. He wanted to get his props all on his own and not based on all of them. So Randy, our lawyer at the time, put us together, and he was like, "Hey man, you can get this amazing album, improve." And I was like, "Yeah, but can we please just get one song with Eminem on it?"
Right.
And unfortunately, it didn't work out. He passed away while we
Yeah.
were negotiating. But um, yeah, and we were also in the process of signing Keith Murray from Def Squad.
Mhm.
And like literally 2 days before we were signing the contract, he went to prison.
Mhm.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
But we were really inspired by those guys and really wanted to work with them. Um, but yeah, it was a pretty cool time. We ended up working with Just Blaze from Rockefeller,
Yeah.
and we almost worked with Kanye West. It's
Dang.
funny.
Okay.
That was so funny. My lawyer actually he called me. I went into his office. He's like, "Listen, man, we need like a really like banging single." And at that time, it was a producer run industry, so it really didn't matter who the vocalist was, as long as you had a hit producer making the beat, it was going to be a hit song.
Right.
So we couldn't afford at that time. The biggest guys was the Neptune, and we couldn't afford that, and we couldn't afford Timberland. I wanted to get him, but we couldn't afford him. He was like almost $300,000 just
Yeah.
just for the
I'm not
beat.
surprised.
But that was just for the beat, right? This doesn't
Right.
include like marketing. This doesn't include mixing, mastering, and at that time, mastering in the studio cost like $10,000 to $20,000. So you can see how one single could easily get to well over $500,000, closer
Mhm.
to $1 million. So we couldn't afford him. So he says, "Hey, how about Just Blaze? He's like really popular. He's all on a hit song.
Mhm.
I was like, okay. He was like, well, it's either Justin or Kanye West. And at the time, Kanye West was known, but he wasn't like known. Like the college dropout didn't come out at that time,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
right? Like he wasn't known as a rapper.
Mhm.
So he says, so what do you want to do? Do you want to work with Kanye? And I was like, yeah, well, Justin's bigger. And at the time he was more popular from a producer's perspective.
Mhm.
So we ended up working with him. And now when I think back, I used to think back, oh man, I wished I worked with Kanye. But now that all the shenanigans and antics he's doing online and all the things he's saying, I'm really glad I didn't end up working with him because this guy's crazy. He's completely out of his mind.
I think that stuff, like, I think it's like, I still listen to his older stuff, and like even some of his new stuff, I just see it as music. But like, I think ever since his mother died and like the whole him and Kanye thing, was it after that, it was just all
Yeah.
downhill from there on. Because after that, and then he started taking like, what was it, nitrous oxide or whatever.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll fry you.
Oh yeah.
Don't you?
Well, I'd like to discuss your experience with creating audio films. Could you maybe walk us through that process of creating one and how you blend music and storytelling?
Well, first of all, I'll tell you really what it is for anybody who doesn't know. An audio film, it's a combination of, I would say, a cinema that blends, I would say, the power of cinema and storytelling. It's a combination of that with immense depths of music. It usually involves voice actors, cinematic soundscapes, compositions. But to put it more simplistically, what is it really? I like to think of it as like when you put your headphones on and you close your eyes, it's almost like you're in the movie. I want people to experience what I'm offering them, not just listen to it. I think with so many songs being uploaded every day by famous people and independent artists, I think there's hundreds of thousands of songs being uploaded every day. A lot of the music just sounds the same. And I'm not saying I have anything against just a regular song. I mean, I have over 80 singles that are just regular tracks. So I think we need those. For the people that are looking for something that's a little bit more unique, something they want to make a little bit more, they're looking for something that's a little bit more different, something that's a little bit more story driven, and not just another trap song. And this is really something for you. So with my new audio film, Echoes Through Time, how it really came about is, I mean, I started off when I left in. I'm sorry, maybe I should just go back a little bit. When I was in the music business back in the early 2000s, I stayed in there for about maybe 4 or 5 years. Then I left, and I left because I didn't like all the experience. There was like too much drugs, too much alcohol, too much craziness. It was just too demanding. I said, screw this. So I was living in New York City, came back to Canada, and I had a lot of resentment. I had a bad taste in my mouth. A lot of the artists I felt were just using me, like as a piggy bank, and they didn't understand that this is real money and it actually comes from someplace, and we have to respect budgets. So all of that just put a bad taste in my mouth for music. So I didn't do music for years and years and years. Then I got into writing, and I became a best-selling graphic novelist in 2017. I put out this graphic novel, and when I was telling this story, I realized that I want to do a motion comic, which a motion comic is just something that's more animated, it has sound effects, and it usually has music. I couldn't find anybody to do the music for the motion comic. So I said, screw it, I'll just do it myself. And then that's when my love for music just got back going and the juices started flowing. As I started making new music, I bought new equipment, started figuring all these things out again for the first time in like over 10 years. I realized that really what I like doing is telling these dramatic, epic stories. So I came up with a way through audio films to kind of combine those two. So if you listen to any of my audio films, I have 2 out now. I'm currently working on 3 more, and I think 2 more will be out this year.
Wow.
Um, what you're going to hear is a really in-depth story. Like, for example, on my album, Deep Silent, it starts off walking through the God of Time, and he's talking in depth about the story. And I try to make it sound like, well, what does the God of Time really sound like? And what does the background sound like, right? Is it like an abyss? Is it echoes? Like, is it ice? Like, what does that really sound like? Keep in mind, you have no visuals to rely on, right? In a movie theater, you have visuals, right? And the sound, it really just kind of enhances the visuals. But with an audio film, all you have is audio. So it's a lot more challenging. But at the same time, I feel like it causes you to be way more creative because you only have audio. So you really have to be good with your mixing and with putting the sounds at the right place. It took me a while to figure out how to like not do too much because then things sound muddy and things don't make any sense. So once you figure all that out, I was able to come up with something which I hope people think is pretty interesting and amazing and unique and different. And I try to kind of give you a Zack Snyder experience combined with music that's just audio. So my recommendation for anybody who's listening is, if you want to get the best experience about with this, try using noise canceling earphones. And then you could really, really hear the bass and the sound, the movement, and yeah, I think that's the best way to get the best experience. But earbuds, I tried them out on earbuds as well. I tried maybe 15 different types of headphones when I was playing around with the sounds. And earbuds work well too. But I would recommend, noise canceling headphones. Sorry, I hope I didn't go on for too long.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Thank
no.
you. That was a great answer.
Oh, thanks.
So going back to like early 2000s and like the whole music industry, do you think that like music back then is like, do you think it's very different than to how it's handled today?
What do you mean?
So
Like a label point of view?
yeah, from like a label's point of view.
Completely. It's completely different, right? Because I think now, because independent artists can just upload their music to any streaming platform whenever they want, you don't have to do a lot of the things um, that you had to do 10, 20, 30 years ago, right? What I love about the streaming service now is that you can really bypass all the bullshit. You don't have to do industry parties if you're not that type of person. You don't have to meet this person. You don't even have to do interviews. You don't have to do anything. You can have a direct relationship with your listeners and just talk to them. Between social media and just uploading your stuff, you can just do that. And there are plenty of artists, there are countless of artists that are extremely successful at that. And they're making money at that. So I think from that perspective, it kind of gives the labels they kind of lose a lot of leverage here. At the same time, I think signing to a label obviously helps you, right? I mean, they do have a larger budget. They can, do massive billboards for you, or maybe get you on television shows, or things like that. So they do have resources, but I think it depends on the type of artist you are, and it depends on what your goals are. It also depends on if some artists love to tour and just want to tour all the time. Some artists don't, so it really depends. But I think like back in the early 2000s, you didn't have all these choices and options. Like you had to tour, right? I mean, how else are people going to get to know who you are? So you had to do that. You had to do interviews. You had to do street teams, right? I remember doing that. That was a crazy, crazy waste of money, right? We used to print up 30, 40, 50,000 CDs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Put them in these sleeves. It's pay to get the jackets, artwork, done. Then you got to pay for the jackets, pay for the CDs. And then you got to pay these kids to go run around all over New York, Chicago, Atlanta, and hand out these CDs. And then somehow you have to hope that a certain percentages doesn't end up in the trash or it doesn't end up on the
Yeah.
street or this and that. Like there, no matter what you did, there was like a give, like a good and bad to it. There was like sacrifice. There was also loss of income. In that perspective with the stickers and things like that. Now you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to do street teams. Street teams now is TikTok, right? You get
Yeah.
influencers. Those are your street teams now.
Yeah.
And they reach millions of people at a time, right?
Mhm.
There's no more wasted paper or flyers, any of that stuff. And now you can get people talking about your music in Europe and other places. Early 2000s, you had to pay. How are you going to get somebody to play your music in London, right? You had to go out there. You had to have DJs out there. You had to have contacts out there. Now, with streaming and everything else, there's also a lot of internet radio. You don't have to leave your living room. I actually get a lot of radio play in Europe, you know, and in London,
Mm-hmm.
Specifically in London. I get radio play in Japan, Australia. I've never been to any of those places, but because of the internet and social media, we make those connections. I just had somebody reach out to me 2 days ago in Cincinnati at a radio station. And they started playing one of my remixes on the radio. They said, "Hey, we really like this. We added it in our rotation." I mean, that's amazing. I mean, 20 years ago, I would have had to pay somebody to do that.
Yeah.
That would have cost me at least $1,000, maybe more. So
Yeah. Well, it's so cool how it's changed over time. And
yeah.
speaking of tours, you're going on tour this year, the Asylum tour. What can your fans expect from this live show?
Um. Well, I'm still looking at the design of the show. I have a couple of options to do the show.
Mm-hmm.
My original, and it depends on the venues that I'm going to do it because originally it was going to be a tour across Canada, and now I had the opportunity to maybe just do 3 shows a week in downtown Toronto at a specific venue. So and I'm also a full-time university student. My goal is to be a forensic psychologist. So I also have to take my school schedule into consideration.
Yeah.
But if I can tell you this much: if I end up doing the show in Toronto, in one location, I'm leaning towards something to the effect of a combination of actors with ballet. There's also uh, 2, maybe 3 opera singers that will be involved. You can also expect a really large, I think maybe 2 really large screens in the background to show a lot of the storyboards that I've designed for the visual for the Asylum album. Because originally it was supposed to be a visual album, and then I turned it into an audio film. So I made an art book which isn't out yet. It'll be out this summer of the Asylum. There's about maybe 200 pages of full blown artwork of the whole concept of the story. So you see like the god of time and the god of chaos, and you see like a lot of cool special effects with lightning and different powers and things like that. So yeah, it really depends. But whether I do the show in Toronto or to across Canada, you'll definitely see like a couple of large screens. You'll definitely see different artwork that's posted up with some cool effects so the audience has a deeper experience and um, much more in-depth knowledge of the story. Yeah, you can also expect some house music combined with opera. Yeah, and some voice actors, some really cool costumes, right?
Wow.
You can expect that, and the rest I'll save it for a surprise.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it sounds like it's gonna be a whole immersive experience rather than just a concert.
Yeah, I think concerts are great. But what I realize what's my thing, what I really like to do, I think every artist needs to ask themselves, like, what am I really offering the public or my fans or my listeners? Like, what makes me different, right? Like, what's
Mm-hmm.
my thing? This is my thing. I'm really like, I am a writer, I am a creator, producer, director. So a lot of times I don't even like to be in front of the camera, like it, because to me it's about the story and having the right characters and the right actors play the right roles. And it's about giving the audience the best experience possible. And that's really what I want. I want people to walk away from my show saying, wow, like I really wasn't expecting that. Like, holy shit, that was crazy. That was different. That was unique. That was worth every penny. Like I really want to come back.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't want to just, like I just don't want to be on stage just playing music or playing instruments. I think for some shows that's perfect to do that. But I don't really want to be known for that. I'd like to be known as a guy who is kind of like Zack Snyder in music. So,
Mm-hmm.
like you can expect to hear explosions or something like that, like at one of my shows.
That would be cool.
Yeah.
So, you said you're studying forensic psychology. So, like, what made you want to do that?
Well, my wife and I, we have a successful mental health practice in Toronto. We have a few locations, and my wife is the clinical director. She's also a registered life coach. Um, and if anybody's interested in the mental health services in Toronto, you can check out mindbydesign.ca. And you can reach out to my wife. Her name's Ellie Borden. And we pride ourselves in giving out really good mental health services and practices, and we offer services in multiple languages and things like that. But to be honest with you guys, a lot of the stuff that we do, from my perspective, it's like anxiety, depression, PTSD, trauma, and things like that. That's all good, and everybody, whoever needs that help definitely needs the help, and we're just one of many people that offer that help. But to be honest with you, that doesn't get me out of the bed in the morning. I find anxiety and depression, talking about that, extremely boring. I feel like there are a million people out there that can treat that. What I like to do is talk to the worst of the worst, like the people who somehow managed to be married for 15 years, have 3 kids, uh, pisses his wife off in the morning, goes to work, comes home at night, somehow develops a plot to bomb a million people.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody can separate their lives and their minds and still justify mass horror, terror, murder on children, even when they have their own children. I find that very interesting. I find that fascinating that somebody is able to do that and that they're able to justify it, right? Because everything is always justified, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I find that extremely interesting and the criminal mind and how that operates. So that's what I'm specializing in. That's what I'm focusing on. And as time goes on, my career will be mostly focused on working with children and child development assessments. And within our court system, the court constantly needs family assessments, relations assessments, child assessments, things like that, especially when there's divorce or um, an accusation of abuse or things like that. And I see the majority of my career operating as an expert witness in court and advocating for children. And yeah, and I'm currently right now working on a documentary, actually, um, with some of the worst people in Canada within the prison system. So
Wow.
hopefully within the next 2 to 3 years, it'll be completed. But my goal is to interview uh, several of these um, really, really horrible, like the worst of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And Well, I don't want to give it all away and what the whole point is, but there is a lot of research involved, and there is a point to the documentary. Have an ultimate goal on why I'm doing all this, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and I think it'll be a very interesting documentary. And yeah, I find that very motivating, and I also find that there's a lot more to learn
Mhm.
from these individuals. Of course, there's been a lot of assessments and conversations that have been done, but we can't stop learning and growing. Well, the next generation needs to evolve and
Mhm.
move the research forward. And yeah, I want to see a really, I'd love to explore really what more can we do, right? Like we know they're locked up, we know they're in there, we know what they did, we have their assessments, but moving forward, what's the plan? Because the truth is, most of these people will be released. Most of these people, according to Canadian law, will not do like an entire life sentence, right? They won't
Mhm.
spend 60, 70, 80 years behind bars. It's not like the American system. So if we know that these people are going to be released, and we know that they are going to be part of somebody's community, somebody's society,
So,
essential eight risk factors, and
mhm.
how that applies.
Yeah. So, you've had a really diverse career over the years. So, what advice would you give to artists looking to break into these multiple creative industries?
Um, wow. Which 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 industry are you talking about? Are you talking about writing, music,
Well, everything. Like, if
psychology? Are you talking
someone's,
about all of them?
yeah, just in general, like, if someone is maybe like they have their hands full with all of these sorts of things, they're making music, they're writing books, they're creating films, what advice would you give to them to maybe manage all of that or how to get noticed?
Oh, well, in terms of getting noticed, you have to figure out your own lane and what works for you, right?
Mhm.
There's so many people that ended up going viral or getting noticed in different ways for different things. So somebody's recipe isn't necessarily going to be your recipe, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of people would probably listen to my audio film and say, "Wow, this is great, but this is insane." Like I don't, like I'm not going to make sound effects and explosions and do. Do
Right.
you have any idea how time consuming that is? Like that, this is crazy. But that's my thing, and that's what works for me, and that's what motivates me to get up in the morning at like 4 or 5 o'clock, right?
Mhm.
So you got to figure out what motivates you and what's your thing and what you're offering. One thing I will say is that a lot of things you see on the internet, and especially with music, a lot of it is discouraging. And a lot of people put out stuff and they're not getting the feedback, or maybe whatever it is, maybe they're just not getting the streaming numbers that they want. What I would encourage everybody is don't give up. Don't give up. Because what I did was I put away my music for about 15 years. It was probably the worst thing I've ever did.
Mhm.
Because during that time, I always knew something was wrong, like inside of me. Something just felt a little off, and I didn't know what it was until I started creating again. And artists and creators, you need to create. It's part of your bloodline. It's part of your DNA. So a lot of people give up. Well, I would say to all those people, don't give up. No one's saying that you win 5 Grammys or tour all over the world with, you know, Beyonce. But that doesn't mean that has to be your definition of happiness. A lot of people feel like unless I, get a certain amount of streams or do this or do that, and I won't be happy. I would say if you're creating and you're releasing music, I would say that you've already won. I would also say that give yourself some time. Give yourself a little bit of time because you just need just a little bit. Just one person here, one person there to discover what you're doing. Or maybe somebody will hear what you did and say, you know what, I want you on my podcast. And maybe that podcast is a thing that gets you an extra 1,000 listeners a month. Oh no. If you give up, I can guarantee you nothing will ever happen. That I can promise you. But if you don't give up, something just might happen. Right? And we have countless examples of people who've been successful later on in life. A lot of younger people seem to think that, well, I'm 19 or 21 and a half. How come I don't have $1 billion? How come I'm not viral? You know that guy, I forget his name. I think it's Ian something. The guy who plays Gandalf in The Lord of the Rings. I forget
Oh,
his name.
um, oh, I'm not
Okay.
sure. I can
But
picture him though.
you know who I'm talking about. I think it's
Yeah.
Ian. Anyways, he didn't become famous until he was like 2. I mean, think about that. He's been working as an actor his entire life, professionally trained, doing plays, all this stuff. And in his 60s is when he becomes famous. So my point is, you just don't know what's going to happen to you. You don't know when it's going to happen to you. But I guarantee you, if you give up, nothing will ever happen. So don't give up. Be creative, figure out your lane, and work your program, and don't worry about everybody else's program.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my 2 cents.
Okay. Now wrapping it up for the this will be our last question. So what do you what do you see being like the next thing for yourself as like Dr. B, and like you have your tour coming up and all that. What do you see, like what are the next few projects that you're thinking of working on, or just kind of in general, what's next for you?
Well, I have a Christmas album coming out later on this year, and I've been working on that, and I'm pretty excited about that, and I hope everybody enjoys it. The Christmas album is a remix album of a lot of all of our favorite Christmas hits. But I've noticed that last year I was listening to some Christmas music. I think it was like mid-November, and all the Christmas tracks are slow tempo, like 99% of them. I'm like, how are we supposed to dance to this at a party?
Mm-hmm.
So I took some of our favorite Christmas tracks that everybody knows and loves, and I made them into dance and house and hip hop tracks, so we can dance and move around. So I'm hoping what people do is when they're putting up the Christmas tree, just put on Dr. B's Christmas album, and you guys can have a great time with the family, or if you're at your office Christmas party, you can enjoy that. I'm putting out another version of that with uh, which is going to be more like an audio film. You're going to hear, think of like a Dr. Seuss type of Christmas story where it rhymes, and you're going to hear some special effects, and Dr. B helps Santa save Christmas. So I'm looking forward to doing that, and I hope the kids enjoy that because it's going to be kind of like a Christmas story for kids, but like an audio film. That'll be a lot of fun, and I'm also working on another audio film called Dune: New Earth, which takes place in the Dune universe, but we don't really reference any of the characters or anything like that. It pretty much what happens is New Earth gets attacked, and all these humans flee off New Earth, and with all these millions of people fleeing, they all have their own story, where they're going, what's happening to them. Some of them don't make it, some of them do. So my character, Dr. B, takes off, and we follow his story on, and you hear different planets that he's on, and it's really about his relationship with the AI system. So he has 2 friends, and it's AI. You hear them talking, and they go back and forth, and you hear the different planets that he experiences, different species, and you also get to hear like literally like space battle scenes, like a war that takes place in space. So you get to hear explosions and ships and all the cool sound effects and hyperdrive. So I really, really love spending my time doing stuff like that. So that'll be coming out later on this year, and yeah, and I'll let everybody know about the upcoming shows and when those are coming out and how that's going to progress. But yeah, you could definitely expect a lot more music from me coming out this later on this year, and I think I'll be releasing probably another maybe 15, 20 singles between now and the end of the year, and 2 to 3 albums. So I hope everybody enjoys them. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Nice.
Awesome. Yeah, so you've definitely got your hands full. You are a very impressive artist with like such a diverse background. It was really such an honor to be able to speak with you today. And I hope
Oh, thank you.
yeah, no problem. And I hope our listeners really enjoyed hearing your story. Um, Thank you for everything you've shared with us today. It was very insightful. And yeah, we will leave your information in the description of this episode in case anybody would like to find you. So yeah, thank you everybody for listening in this episode, and we will see you in the next one.